Good afternoon. It is Friday, the day before New Year's Eve. And oh, what a year it is going to be. As a matter of fact, people are gearing up, they're getting ready. Some folks are getting ready for a watch meeting. You know, when I was a kid, we used to always look forward to New Year's because we had watch meeting at our church. And they never told us totally what the watch meeting was about, but I kind of scouted around and dug up a little stuff and discovered that watch meeting activity was kind of a celebration for black folks in the country because the new year, after Abraham Lincoln had signed the Emancipation Proclamation, it was to take effect on January 1st. And so after people with anticipation get all riled up, the next day was going to be the new year, and it was going to be a new life for people. They were going to be out from under the yoke of slavery. Let me ask you, what are you doing New Year's night? Let me ask you, what are you doing New Year's Day? Of course, for me, New Year's Day, I'm going to spend some of my time at the Gospel Bowl. And that's where a group of preachers get together and they just preach all day. And they have fun. They enjoy themselves. There's some other people who get together and they shoot up all day. And they have fun doing dope. There are other people who get together and they drink all day. And they have themselves a good time. Some folks lay back and watch the football games all day. There are some folks who pull out the chitlins and the black-eyed peas and cornbread and okra. And I'm part of that crowd, except that I don't necessarily pull out any chitlins. But all the rest of that stuff, I'll pull that out. Sometimes I'll read all day. Sometimes I'll go to the Gospel Bowl. Sometimes I'll watch a little bit of football. But I guess more than anything else, I always declare that it's a day of Thanksgiving. That I'm always pleased and delighted that I've gone into a new year. And those were days that growing up were kind of sentimental, because my parents always pushed the notion of hope. And on New Year's Day, we would do a lot of hoping. We'd pull out the greens and the cornbread and the sweet potatoes and some of that leftover turkey and all that stuff. But it was mostly a day of hope. My mother was kind of superstitious, and she'd send us down to the next person's house to carry good luck to them. And her notion was, if you carried good luck to somebody else, you'd have good luck yourself. How about that? What you give, you get in return. If you treat other people a certain way, they'll treat you the same way. And I guess those are old-fashioned ideas that I still believe a great deal in. And I adhere to them. And so these holidays, I become somewhat melancholy, because I always connect back to my roots. And I think of my mother and my father and my grandma Mattie And my other grandparents and my grandfather James, we called him son. And my other grandparents, I didn't really know. My father's father died when he was a little boy because he was a carpenter and he fell off a ladder and stuck a piece of wood in his side. Of course, it set up gangrene, and he died. My grandmother, Maddie, that's on my father's side, she lived to be 96 years old, and I was her favorite. And she always had something for me, a little piece of candy or something. And so I was her favorite. I absolutely was. She would reach in between the mattress, and I go in to see her even when I was going to college. She lived in the same town where the college was. And I'd go out and visit her almost every weekend, some kind of way, form, or fashion. And when I get ready to leave, she stayed in the bed along lots. She was bedridden. She'd reach under the mattress or the pillows or something and find $20 or 10 or whatever she had. And she would share that with me. And so I always revere Grandma Maddie. My mother's mother, I never really had a chance to know because she died the month before I was born. So let me just ask you, what does the new year mean to you? If you have any revelations, any resolutions, any thoughts or ideas about the new year, please call and let me know. And we'd be delighted to know what you're thinking as we approach New Year's. And I always think that tomorrow, in spite of the conditions, in spite of all the difficulties, in spite of everything, we are still here. And there are many others who've gone away. And so we've been blessed to have the presence of life, of new life. And as long as you are kicking, no telling where you would get, no telling how far you would go. And life is so overpowering, so precious. And I often use this little metaphor and say that I bargained with life for a penny, and life would pay no more. However, I begged at evening time when I counted my scanty store. But I found that life is a just employer. He gives you what you ask. And once you have set the wages, then you must bear the task. I worked for a menial's pay, only to learn dismay, that whatever price I had asked, life would have willingly paid. And so, as long as there is life, there is hope, there is possibility. There are ways to discover things that you never thought of before. And so life is precious. Life is good. And so we take life and revere in how precious it is. Life is real. Life is honest. And so I hope that you will see life in the same context that I see it. Because once you lose hope, once you give up hope, then you don't have a great deal to look forward to. So tomorrow at 11 o'clock in the morning, after I leave a funeral, the associate pastor of my church where I've held membership for many, many years, Reverend Newsom, passed away, and his funeral is tomorrow morning. So I want to express condolences to him and his family. But most of all, I want to go right to the telephone and listen to what our caller has to say.
Yes, Congressman Davis.
Yes, sir.
I don't always agree with you, but I was really taken back about how well you took the death of your nephew was, and I really, really appreciated that, and that'll always stick with me the rest of my life. But I just wanted to let you know that for myself and my family, we give our deepest condolences for the passing of your nephew. And that's all I really wanted to say. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so very much. And it was actually my grandson. And tomorrow we're going to have a discussion at the St. John's Holiness Church at 1300, right at 1300 North Walla, from 11 o'clock until 3 o'clock, trying to talk about how do we reduce the level of violence in our community. So we've invited about 50 people to come, and 55 have already indicated that they were coming. And we're going to have that conversation. We're going to try to get people to have something positive that they are doing, that they think ought to be doing, and they think might work. I haven't heard any panaceas yet. I know that there have been thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars where people have just had think tank discussions, and they've talked about it and what do they think will work. And there are some things that will work, but they won't work as soon. It will take much longer. There are those who believe that if you just put it in the master's hand, things going to be all right. And I think some of all those things are helpful, and all of them will help. But I find that I don't have to be against what somebody else thinks just because I think differently. I'm saying I don't have to shoot your idea down because it's not exactly the idea that I wanted to push up. I don't believe that you can make beauty ugly, just like I don't believe that ugly changes to beauty just because somebody is saying it or talking about it. I don't think that making or trying to make an ugly person ugly is going to make a beautiful person ugly. So it all is a matter of thinking. The Bible says that as a man thinketh, so is he. As a woman thinketh, so is she. And so a lot of things about thinking. I remember one poem a guy wrote. He says, I think that I shall never see a poem so lovely as a tree that's made in summer's wear. Something in her hair, upon whose bosom snow has lain, who intimately sleeps with the rain. Poems are made like fools like me, but only God can make a tree. Thoughts about trees. Joyce Kilmer, I believe, wrote that. Caller, will you go right ahead?
Yes, and good afternoon, Congressman. It's a great day to be on God's green earth. And to all listeners that's listening, I wish everyone a peaceful New Year's Eve. Please, no more death. No more. Let's just stop. Let's see, can we just hold these 2 days down? Congressman, you were just speaking about hope. And I don't want to sound like a Grinch, but people, well, not all people, but us a lot of people, and especially young people, only time you ever hear hope is, I hope I don't go to jail. I hope I'm not going to die. Uh, Maybe I hope I get away from a situation. But again, if they do the other parts of the hope, praying and trying to change your life around, and it don't take long to change your life around if you just choose to do that, because there is someone that will be acceptable to help you change. But again, I'm not the smartest person in the world, and Lord knows I'm not the dumbest person in the world. It don't take that much to figure everything out, what we need to do as people, as human beings that have a brain more uh, smarter than a dog. Let me tell you something. It's great to be here. Why not enjoy what you got? I don't even care if you just got an apple to eat today. Some people don't even have that. So it's a great day to have something. But when you don't have hope or respect, you don't have nothing.
Let me ask,
Congress? Sure.
how do you get hope? How is it that some people can be so hopeful and other people be hope empty?
Well, this is what I think. This is just me. Uh, as a young person, we wish for things. As we progress through our life, we hope we could do better. We hope we could get this, to do this, accomplish things. And when you do accomplish those things, it get to a point where you're being thankful. Thank you. Give prayers. Thank him. Be thankful. I don't have to hope for more money. I don't hope for those things anymore. I mean, I don't hope for a car anymore. I don't hope for food. If you do the things right, then it's time to say thank you and be grateful. But grateful, like I say, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But again, I think we need to learn to give back when you get to a point, just like you right now. You doing service work right now. You could be many other places, but you on this CAN TV talking to us, trying to even give hope and other things. Good, just a good person to give things. Again, you could have been doing anything. I don't have time for this, but you do. So you're giving back what's given to you so freely. You give a lot of you, and many ways than just coming on CAN TV talking. I hear you every time. You see you on TV. People talk. So that's what you have to do. Talking is better than not doing nothing at all. And not doing nothing at all is a person who's lost. So you need to choose to get up and do something or just continue to just do nothing. Those are people that just complain, that want to do nothing. I don't want to take this whole show from you, Congressman. Again, I think you're a hell of a good guy. God got something for you. You've been a good facilitator. You've been a good congressman. And now you're being a great human being. And trust me, I'm not trying to put a whistle on your head. I'm just telling you what I think. Again, that's just me thinking. I've been listening to you a long time. You're very grateful. Again, Congressman, I almost called you father. Last week you brought me to tears. You brought me into a time where I was. How many people you think had those same upbringings as we did?
And let me tell you, I was almost in tears myself.
Yeah, I was.
Of my parents
Hmm.
sometimes will bring me to tears. I mean, and thinking of faith, like a lot of times when I'm talking to college students or young people, and I talk about things, but then I eventually get around to the business of having faith, just enough faith to believe that you can do
Hmm.
things you want to do.
Sure, you're right. That's why I told you, you give back what was given to you so freely. You had a good upbringing. Listen, I don't want to hog the show,
Right?
so let me get out there. And again, Happy New Year's to you and your family.
Thank you
And
so much.
response.
New Year's, happy Kwanzaa. May the 2017 be the best year of your life.
Also, thank you. And to your listeners also.
Thank you. You know, living is something that you must do until you die. And after living, that's why sometimes jokingly I will say to someone who say, you got to do this. I said, well, I don't know but two things that you got to do. And you don't do both of them at the same time. You got to live until you die. And of course, when you die, you're no longer living. And when you're living, you know you haven't reached that point of being dead. And so I often even say at funerals sometimes where I attend, I will say the words of a song that just simply say, if when you give the best of whatever it is that you have to give, telling the world that the Savior is come, be not dismayed when men don't believe you. Pick up the cross and run swiftly to him. He'll understand and say, well done. Now, of course, that is a connotation of something that you can't see, but something that you can feel, something that you can't necessarily create, but something you can hope for. And there are a lot of people who try and espouse certain causes and who do. A lot of times people don't agree with them, which they have a right not to do so. But if you believe in this Savior that I call it, just go and let him know what's going on. And if nobody else understands, he will understand and say, well done. Generally, when I'm in that kind of emotional being, whatever I may have been going through before, it changes. And rather than the darkness of night, now I see the brightness of day. So I certainly want to wish all of you a happy holiday ending, a happy new year, and maybe you can create some kind of new beginning, something that you will do differently, something that you will change, and you don't worry about what other people are doing. Just worry about yourself. And if you manage to do that, again, the darkness becomes light and the night becomes day. Have a wonderful, wonderful new year. And we hope to see you next week.